All right, so this week, very, very different week than the past couple of weeks. In part to give you a break from making stuff, and in part because we just need to go over these things. So for week 12, we're going over materials. And since we're getting deeper into materials, we necessarily have to get into rendering, which is why there are so many videos here. We're just watching the quick overview right now. Take these slowly. They're technical, they're complicated. They're not that long, each one of them. I've broke them up into different pieces like this so that if you want to learn about specular settings, you just go right here. If you want to learn which one you should use in the first place, you go to this one. So they are their own subjects, so they're not as long as the usual videos, but it's a lot. So the way these videos work is I have a couple of files, which you can actually, by the way, it'll be up in a minute, but you can download them. It'll be a whole Maya project folder though. And that's because in order to label things, I had to, make an actual, UV map of the floor and put it in Photoshop and type in things and then do that whole rigmarole, attaching it to a file. That file is in the project folder. So the project folder is called 3D Materials. You have to take it out of the zip file right before you actually try to use this. The scenes are all in the scene file. You're looking for the ones that say materials. And then there is, there's an image in here, like a Photoshop image that it's connecting to it for here. If you want to be able to see this, you would simply go to File, Set Project, and make sure you choose, 3D Materials as your project. And then what you can do is you can go to Color, click here to the Placement Texture node or the File node, and you can hit Reload. And it should find it because it should find it right in the source images folder. All right, but there's a few different ones because I kind of like made changes along the way in my videos, you'll see. So if you jump to the bump map video, you're going to need a different file because I had, set up different stuff on these. At this point, you can already see that I even changed these models because anisotropic shows up better when you have stuff going on the model. Also, the render settings may be different once we get to this file because I had actually set them up. All right, but there's a few different files like this, and they're basically set up with different materials as labeled here, a little bit of lighting so that we can see what's going on, and so you can follow along with everything. Whoops, if you want to go to your attribute editor, that is where all of these things will be. So that's going to be a zip file that's posted right here. Also included here are some links to Autodesk's pages. So if you just want, like a glossary of terms, right? So here's all of the shaders, the basic ones, and some of the 3D or more complicated ones, common surface attributes, common specular shading attributes. And if you want to know like some very technical terminology about a blend shader, then you can go into there and I go over these things in the video, but they do more. they say it with all the fancy words, so that you can kind of have this here as a glossary of terminology. So we have that there for basic materials list, common attributes, specular attributes, and then bump maps, which is definitely a new thing we are introducing this week. The thing on bump maps, this video here, it's bump maps, you can map them using what we did with the picture frame, where you UV map something and then you bring it to Photoshop and you put in a really nice bump map there. We do not have the time currently in our online only situation to really go over UV mapping. So what I'm showing you here is using generated textures to apply not UVs, to apply a bump map to something. It takes a little bit of finagling, but it is a cheap way to get a bump on something and not have everything be so smooth. And yeah, there's things you have to work around, and it's a bit of a cheat, but hey, what is animation if not basket of cheats? So there's also some basics on rendering, because in order to see really specular shading, reflectivity, and things like that, you need to render. I also list what my current render settings are and things you need to look at. There are things in the lights that you need to set up to get your shadows to work properly. There are things on the materials you need to set up to get any number of things working properly. So all lights, materials, rendering settings, they are all connected. I am using the Maya renderer because not everyone has access to Arnold, and also it's a whole other kettle of fish, and we can get some, pretty good results from Maya. All right. So that is this week. Again, it's a lot of material. You're not creating anything this week. The choice is yours how much of this you watch, and you've got time to take it in. Materials are going to play a role in your final, so it would behoove you to watch these at some point. I know they played a role in the midterm, but like more so, right? We want to, drill down into really making the materials work for us and what we're doing. There's no participation survey this week. It's to post, create a thread with your name, post both, let's try that again. Post both versions of your plushie into the discussion board for feedback, just like we did at the midterm, but for funsies. Just go in here and create a new thread. Don't worry about, like it's meant to be fun and, giving us a little bit more of community, things like that. No assignment this week, right? We're just trying to learn some things. And as usual, I will be in the classroom, quote unquote, from 2 to 5. Not on April 9th, that was last week. April 16th, I will change that. All right. And if you have any questions about anything, please be sure to email me.